Good morning. Is everybody awake now? Welcome to Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Lake County. I am Susie Lockwood, and I will be your service leader this morning. And we are very honored to have Reverend Kathy Schmitz return as our guest speaker. First, as always, we'll begin with our usual announcements. And I will start with our usual. Okay, please remain muted unless called upon to speak. A reminder that the services are being recorded, although we do not record the time of sharing joys and concerns or the discussion period after the service. If you've missed any of our services or would like to share some of our services with friends, you can always find them on our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and in the search type UUCLC office, and there we are. And you can always find the links in our weekly bulletin and the communicator. Speaking of the weekly bulletin and communicator, please make sure you check out all the group activities that are going on here at UUCLC via Zoom, except for Tai Chi, which is held in the church parking lot. I also suggest for you to become familiar with the chat box. You can use it to share a joy or concern if the words are too tender to speak, and it will then be read to the congregation. You can also use the chat box to make a contribution. We will bring you more information on how to donate later in the service. Does anyone else have an announcement this morning? I know we are going to later toward the end of the service.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Jane Lovejoy.
Good morning.
Go ahead, Jane. Go ahead, please.
Good morning. I just wanted to remind everybody, and I will send out a email blast during the week, that next Sunday from 3 to 4:30, I'll be available in the parking lot for you to drop off food and other items that can be used by folks who are clients of Lake Care's Food Pantry and the Open Door Homeless Center. And I hope to see you next Sunday afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. That's wonderful. You keep doing this. And does anyone else have an announcement before I?
Well, I do.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that if you were financially okay before receiving your latest stimulus check, please consider how intergenerational justice and your legacy could benefit from your $1,400 windfall. A donation to the church's solar fund will go a long way to modeling how we can truly change global warming trajectory for our kids and their kids. We need a viable beacon of hope for our greater community, and let it be our church. Thank you.
That's beautiful, Christy.
And
thank you. And go ahead. No, I was just going to remind everybody tell everybody that during the towards the end of the service, our president, Russ Littlefield, we were going to speak about the slate of officers. We're going to share with you the nominees for the slate of officers, and that will be later on in the service. Okay, any other announcements?
I don't see anyone else.
Okay, thank you, Christy. Our opening words this morning. The church is not a place, it is a people. The church is only a steeple above the, is not only a steeple above the tree lines, streets, and cars. Rather, it's the people proclaiming to the world that we are here for the work of healing and for justice. The church is not walls built upon stone, held together by mortar, but rather person linked with person, linked with person, all ages, genders, and abilities. A community built on the foundation of reason, faith, and love. The church is not just a set of doors on Sunday morning, but the commitment day after day and moment after moment of our hearts creeping open the doors of welcome to the possibility of new experiences and radical welcome. The church is not simply a building, a steeple, a pew. The church is the gathering together of all people and experiences, and fear, and love, and hope in our resilient hearts, gathering however we can to say to the world, welcome, come in, lay down your heartache, and pick up hope and love. For the church is us, each and every one of us, together, a beacon of hope to this world that so sorely needs it. Words by Margaret Weiss. Welcome again. You are loved beyond belief. You are enough. You are precious. Your work and your life matter, and you are not alone. You are a part of we, a great cloud of witnesses, living and dead, who have insisted that this beautiful, broken world of ours is a blessing worthy of both deep gratitude and fierce protection. Our ancestors and our descendants are beckoning us, compelling us onward toward greater connection, greater compassion, greater commitment to one another and to the earth. Together, we are resilient and resourceful enough to say yes to that call, to make it our life's work in 1,000 different ways, knowing that we can do no other than bind ourselves more tightly together and throw ourselves into the holy work of showing up again and again to be part of building that world of which we dream, but which we not yet have seen. We are Unitarian Universalists, and all are welcome here. Words from Ashley Horan. It is time that we welcome first-time visitors. But before we do, I would like to welcome a very special visitor, Pastor Mike Watkins, known by many of us as Pastor Mike. He comes to us from Friendship, CME, Christian Methodist Episcopal Church in Tavares. In February, he was on the panel of our local clergy at one of our social justice lecture series events and is known for his involvement in the community social activism. If I'm not mistaken, I believe he has a few members with him. I'm not sure of his congregation. Welcome, welcome, Pastor Mike. And I'm sure you're not too shy to introduce yourself right now to our congregation. Pastor Mike, welcome.
Good morning to you all. We're glad to be here. There are several members of the church on. I think some of them have their video off, but several of the members are here. And you all see Sister May, you're very familiar with her. I guess she's going to be on your forum tonight. But it's good to see you all's face. I was sharing at my church earlier this morning how we appreciate how you all are involved in social justice and the various things that affect the communities around you. So we're happy to join you. If some of the other members of the church would like to say something, they certainly can, but I think they're probably going to let me just say it. So we're glad to be here, and God bless you all.
Oh, thank you so much, Pastor Mike. And I do understand that you're their speaker this morning, but would any of Pastor Mike's congregation like to say hello on camera? That's okay.
Hello. Hello.
Oh, hello.
Good morning.
Can we focus in? No? Is that
I
a little
see
hard to do?
you got Brother Lucas
Oh.
there, and you got May, you got Vanessa and George.
Good
I think
morning.
Dante, I see Sylvia. So
Oh, I could
several
just-
of them there.
I think I've got some tears. I think that's beautiful.
I'm on a conference call.
Oh, thank you. Well, that's okay. I heard y'all's voices. We all heard you. And welcome. Bless you all. Welcome. Oh. I would now like to invite any other first-time visitors to introduce yourselves. Don't be shy, like Pastor Mike, don't be shy. Raise your hand and we will ask you to unmute to introduce yourself. Do we have any visitors this morning other than Pastor Mike's group? No one?
We have Vegan Jyoti.
Good morning. Namaste. Thank you so much for having me. My good friend Charles and his wife, Pastor Kathy, they invited me. So I'm really grateful to be part of the UU Church. And blessed be.
Namaste. Namaste. Oh, that's beautiful. Welcome. Glad you could be here this morning. Oh. If anyone wants to also too shy to raise your hand, you can kind of say hello in the chat box if you like. And if any visitors are interested in our monthly bulletin or the communicator, or would like someone to contact you to learn more about Unitarian Universalists or UUCLC, let us know in the chat box, that wonderful chat box. I am off site from my home, and I do not have a chalice with me.
Oh.
Does
help you
anyone? Oh, Christy knows. Thank you, Chris. So sorry. The lighting of the chalice is a moment shared by Unitarian Universalists around the country. It connects us to each other throughout the country and across the globe. Those at home, please join me with your chalice or your candle. Thank you. We light this chalice for the light of truth. We light this chalice for the warmth of love. We light this chalice for the energy of action.
Shape of
Now we make time for sharing our joys, concerns, or to set an intention for the coming days. Again, this part of our service is not recorded. Listening to the sound of the wind. If you cannot hear the wind, adjust your volume. It's there. To give thanks for another day, to give thanks for all those in our lives who have brought us warmth and love, to give thanks for the gift of life. Now, please find a comfortable posture. Take a deep breath, let it out slowly as you become mindful of all that we have heard here this morning. And listen to the wind. Now, if you repeat with me together, our congregational covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. We are so fortunate to have our UU family to support each and every one of us in order to continue our virtual services, keep our beautiful building protected, ready for our eventual return. We ask for whatever financial support that you can provide. There are multiple means to do this, all of which are found in the Sunday Bulletin or our UUCLC website. You can also donate from the chat box right now. Thank you all for your support and donations today.
Come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is not a caravan of despair. Come, yet again come. So says hymn number 188 in our Unitarian Universalist hymnal, Singing the Living Tradition. The hymn is based on a poem from the 13th century Persian poet Rumi. But there's a phrase missing from the original, and it speaks of broken vows. It's sometimes added to the hymn as a bass line. The full translation of the words of the Sufi poet Jalaluddin Muhammad Rumi, coming to us across the centuries, is as follows. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. It doesn't matter. Ours is not a caravan of despair. Come, even if you have broken your vows 1,000 times. Come, yet again come. Even if you have broken your vows 1,000 times. How poignant. Rumi, like other Sufi poets, often spoke of love, his love for God, and more importantly, God's abundant love for the world. Come, even if you have broken your vows 1,000 times. Come, God still has a place for you. Today, I want to talk about broken vows. I try to be true to my word, to honor my vows, to keep my promises. Yet my experience is I will not always succeed at this. My question this morning is, what does it mean when we don't keep our commitments, our vows, our promises? In reflecting on this, I came up with 4 ways that it can happen. I imagine you can think of some others. I want to quickly dispense with the first because that's not what I'm talking about today. And that is when people break their vows cavalierly, almost as if they were lying when they made them. This is not my subject for today. I would simply like to suggest that while we will break our promises, we would do not to do it lightly. But what about those other times when we break our promises, the ones we really meant to keep? I'll go into each in detail in a moment, but first let me lay out the 3 that occurred to me. First, we will break our promises because we are human and we don't always live up to our best intentions, in which case we may need forgiveness from our others and also from ourselves. Second, we will break our commitments because we are bold enough to think that we have more control than we do, in which case we may need humility. And third, we will break our vows when we realize that it is a moral imperative, when we realize that our health and safety or the health and safety of others requires us to do so. In this case, we may need courage. Let's take each of these in order. First, we will break our promises because we're human and we don't always live up to our best intentions. We meant to do it when we said we would do it, but temptation, greed, desire, fatigue, fear, all can kick in. Let me use a fairly lightweight example from my own life. I'm not inclined to give you my heavy-duty examples. When I first discovered Unitarian Universalism, I jumped in with both feet. I got very involved in my new congregation as a layperson. I volunteered for everything. It was no surprise, therefore, that when it was time for the annual pledge drive, I was asked to be a visiting steward. That is, one of the people who would sit down with others and talk to them about what their financial commitment would be to the congregation for the following year. When asked, I gave my reflective answer, sure, why not? Except I was raised as an ethnic Yankee, and we don't talk about money. Every time I tried to work up my courage to arrange my required visits, I felt sick to my stomach. After losing much sleep one night at midnight, I wrote a note resigning from the committee. I felt awful. I just couldn't do it. And I was sure that everyone involved thought I was awful. But word must not have traveled too far, because a year or two later, I was asked again. And I said yes again, and I backed out again. I did not follow through on my commitments. Fortunately, I was forgiven. In the years since then, which include a seminary degree and 20 years in the ministry, I have become much better about talking with people about money, especially the money that congregations need to provide their life-saving ministry to the community. That money I can talk about. Still, that broken vow and the forgiveness I received continue to inform me. I am so grateful to those who are able and willing to have those money conversations and do so with ease for the good of our ministries. And I work to be forgiving of others who back out of their commitments for very human, if not entirely rational, reasons. Now, Unitarian Universalism is the result of the merger of two earlier traditions. The Unitarians and the Universalists merged in 1961. I want to talk about the Universalists. They got their name from their deep belief in universal salvation. That is, they believed that all people would be saved. This was not a comment on the nature of humankind. It was a comment on the nature of God. They believed that God was too good to damn people. I believe this is the root of our Unitarian Universalist Association principle that says we affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. The inherent worth and dignity of every person. Oh, and you know, some days that's a challenge for me. But it is a challenge to which we are called, to find the good in people and to call each other back to a healthy relationship. In our congregations, we are not held together by creed. We do not all believe the same thing. We are held together by a commitment to be together with all of our diverse beliefs. We are held together by covenant, the promises we make about how we will be together in community. Promises we make and break, and when we do, we call each other back into community, back into covenant, back into right relationship, offering each other and ourselves forgiveness and the chance to begin again in love. So this is the first way that we know about when well-intentioned people break their vows. There are, of course, much more serious examples than backing out of a congregational commitment. I'm sure most of you can think of some. Still, large or small, most of us will, at times, need forgiveness because we are human. The second way that we break our commitments comes when we are bold enough to think that we have more control than we do. I am very familiar with this one. I am both a planner and an optimist. I have often made plans that were unrealistic. I am frequently late because I think I can do one more thing. For a long time, I thought this was just the way I was. Then I gained some insight during my participation with the Interfaith Council of Central Florida. Every month, the day before our gathering, I would get an email asking us to RSVP. I would cheerfully hit reply and say, I'll be there. Then I noticed that a number of my interfaith colleagues nuanced their replies. They said things like, I'll be there, God willing. I got to thinking about this, and while I might not phrase it the same way, I came to appreciate the acknowledgement that my intentions don't always get the last word. So I switched my monthly reply to, I plan to attend. It's a small thing, but it feels like a spiritual practice, acknowledging the difference between my plans and the unfolding of the future, which I do not control. Around that same time, maybe even inspired by it, I preached a sermon in which I took exception to a well-known teaching of Master Yoda of Star Wars fame. Now, doing something like this is dangerous in a Unitarian Universalist context where many describe their theological or philosophical understanding in Star Wars terms. They believe in something akin to the Force, as in, use the Force, Luke. But there is an oft-quoted scene in which Master Yoda admonishes his student, Luke Skywalker. In frustration at a difficult task, Luke complains, I can't, it's too big, and you want the impossible. And then finally, I'll give it a try. And Yoda says, do or do not. There is no try. Really? There is no try? To me, this implies that failure is impossible or unacceptable. I fear that this could discourage us from moving forward or create unnecessary shame when failure occurs. I want to know that we can do our best and learn and try again and again and again if needed. And Yoda says, do or do not, there is no try. But I want try as part of my vocabulary. It keeps me humble and keeps me going forward. I can tell you that some who heard that earlier sermon did in fact argue with me. And that's okay. I'm here doing it again, so you can feel free to argue with me as well. There's that discussion time after the service. Go at it if you would like. So sometimes we break our vows because of our humanness. We ask for forgiveness, make amends as best we can, and try to do better in the future. And at other times we default on our commitments because the promises we made were too bold. They did not align with reality or the future as it would unfold. Then to the list of actions above, we add a dose of humility. But there is another time when vows are broken and when I would suggest vows must be broken. There are times when breaking our promises is a moral imperative, when we realize that the health and safety of ourselves or the health and safety of others is in danger and we must not comply. Let's get right to the heart of it. If there are Jews hiding in the attic or persons escaping slavery in the back room and there comes a knock on the door, we must lie, breaking our commitment to honesty, but honoring our commitment to justice. If oneself and one's children are in danger because of an abusive domestic situation, it is time to leave, breaking the vow to death do us part. If a group or organization to which we have pledged ourselves becomes dangerous, coercive, or cultish, we must not let that pledge hold us in place. For those of us who like to keep our promises, it can be difficult to turn away from them. In addition to the struggles with our own conscience, we may find ourselves judged harshly by others or in trouble with the law. We may need courage. We should not take breaking our vows lightly, but it can become necessary when we it can become necessary, and we can do it with confidence, knowing that in the complex weaving of life, the right path for us at any given time and place is determined by many factors, and the vows we have made are just one of them. Jonathan Haidt is a social psychologist with a focus on the psychology of morality. He is the author of the book, The Righteous Mind. Haidt has identified 6 value areas that people use in varying degrees as they navigate life. The interesting thing is that different people put their emphasis on different areas. Here are the 6 areas, and I invite you to consider which ones resonate with you. There's care versus harm, fairness versus cheating, loyalty versus betrayal, authority versus subversion, sanctity versus degradation, and liberty versus oppression. Again, care, fairness, loyalty, authority, sanctity, liberty. Haidt claims that all people use all of these, but that those who are classified as liberal tend to value care and fairness more than the others. And this can explain some of the divisions in our country today, some of the ways that we tend to talk past each other. So for example, if one gives priority to caring and fairness in the name of caring for others, they might buck authority. In the name of fairness or justice, they might defy a loyalty. But some who hold these values more equally might find it more difficult to buck authority or defy loyalty. And it can look to others like they aren't concerned with care or fairness. They do, they're just experiencing more tension. Society today seems to be promoting absolutist thinking, either this or that, things are right or wrong, but life is rarely that simple. We must find the balance between the priorities that pull on us, including our own values. So, as part of the human experience, our building of authentic relationships and beloved community, we will make commitments and promises and take vows. May we make them with authenticity. May we keep them as we are able, ask for forgiveness when we must, and seek humility to keep us honest. And may we be bold and courageous enough to know when our path must go another way, when we must break our vows and put our loyalty aside for a higher purpose. May our truest commitment be toward creating a peaceful, just, and sustainable world for all, today and every day. May it be so. As we prepare for our closing hymn, may you find in your heart love and forgiveness, humility and courage. May you share them abundantly with all you meet. And may your life be a blessing to the world as we seek to build a new way. Our hymn is We Are Building a New Way.
We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. Start with love, that is the seed. We can feed our every need. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Without these the world will die. Peace and freedom is our cry. We are building on a way. We are building on a way. We are building on a way. Feeling stronger every day. We are building on a way. We are building on a way. Feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way.
Russ, go ahead.
Thank you. And I would like to join with others who have welcomed our guests today. We're so happy to have you. Give me a moment, I'm still back in the song. It was great. We are Unitarian Universalists, and our roots are deep in the congregational concept of church. What does that mean? It means that our church is governed by the congregation and its representatives. We have no hierarchical ecclesiastical structure in the Unitarian Universalist Church. And even the ministers that we ask to guide us may not have the final word. Ultimately, we put our trust in our congregation's members, guided, as our fifth principle tells us, by their source of conscience and by their commitment to the democratic process, which we lift up as the process that carries forward our living faith. That is why here at Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Lake County, we announce our nominees for board positions at a Sunday service with our chalice lit. The nominating committee works to select candidates who are clearly committed to our principles and to the people of this church. Serving on this selection committee is an extremely important job, and I must praise this year's committee of Gina Rossi, Jane Lovejoy, and Susan Moore for their hard work. And now I'm going to turn this over to one of the members of that nominating committee, who I think is Jane Lovejoy, who will announce the candidates and the office that each is being nominated for. Jane, are you there?
Yes. Good morning again. So I will announce the candidates. For the office of treasurer of the congregation, we nominate Christina Wilkins. The office of treasurer is a 2-year term. For the office of secretary, we nominate Dottie Beebe. This office is also for 2 years. For a 2-year term as trustee, we nominate Wendy Patrick. And for a 3-year term as trustee, the nominating committee announces the nomination of Julie Twist. We are pleased to forward this list of nominees to the congregation for service on the Board of Trustees. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Again, because in this church we are fully committed to the democratic process, we also open the nomination process to all voting members. In other words, if a voting member wishes to nominate someone who is not nominated by our nominating committee, you are free to do so. If you wish to do that, you may contact Gina Rossi at grossi@mac.com. And there has been and will be again an email sent out that will detail that process. The actual election of candidates will take place at our annual meeting, and that will be on April 11th. Thank you to all of you for your care and consideration as we move forward with the election of our Board of Trustees members. Thank you. Susie?
I'm waiting. Thank you, Russ, and thank you for all your hard work nominating committee. I do have a chalice, but it is not lit. I found it in my bag. So it is time to extinguish our chalice. O spinner, weaver of our lives, your loom is love. May we who are gathered here be empowered by that love to weave new patterns of truth and justice into a web of life that is strong, that is beautiful, that is everlasting. Now weave, for those visitors who don't know, we have for years ended our service with a song called Weave. In the church, the congregation held hands, but since we cannot hold hands together, we do this so we can hold hands virtually while we sing and hear the song Weave. Oh, all right, everybody, if you want to look to gallery view. Okay, I'm waiting for the song. Weave. Hi, Phyllis.
Weave us together, weave us together, and weave us